Yeah.
Dr. Tom Padroni, is he here? And he's going to be followed by Janaea Wayne.
Hello, State Board of Education. Thank you so much for giving all of us this opportunity to speak. I'm also going to be speaking in relation to the intended closure of Oakman School. I'm an associate professor of curriculum studies and policy sociology at Wayne State University. What I want to talk about briefly is the case that was made for closing Oakman and how none of the claims about the need to close Oakman have been substantiated. In fact, there's significant counter evidence. The outgoing former emergency manager Roy Roberts stated in one of his last statements in April when the district was laying out a new strategic direction that he had recognized that the closure of schools dozens every years was actually a mistake, and as he called it a plan for failure. And we were happy to hear that rather than closing 28 intended schools, he was only going to close 4. He mentioned the heaviness with which he announced even those 4 schools and said he took it with utter seriousness because he realized the impact on the neighborhood and on the children and so on. Of those 4, as you've heard, Oakman was one of the 4. I seriously question the seriousness of his decision, and I will tell you why now. The reasons that were listed, and this is from the DPS site, these are all documents that I have and that I will share by email with the State Board after this meeting so that you can see them yourselves. The claims were 3. That the building had $900,000 worth of maintenance upgrades, that the building had declined in enrollment by 50% since 2009, and that the building only had 288 students officially with a capacity of 446. I'll take those claims in reverse order very quickly. The first one is about the alleged decline of the student enrollment. The statement was made that enrollment had declined by 50% since 2009. Well, it's very easy to go on the DPS website and to look at the actual enrollment figures since 2009, actually going back more than a decade, because they're all posted there. And what you see when you go there is that in 2009, enrollment was 270. And now officially it's 288. It's been above 270 every year since 2009, including this year. So much for the seriousness of the claim that part of it is this 50% enrollment decline. The next piece is the piece about capacity. It's stated in the official rationale that the school is only at 50% of its capacity, which is listed as 446. Well, the first thing one notices is that 288 is actually 65% of capacity, not 50. But even more troubling is that when you look back at the capacity going back to 2003, that in 2003 the capacity of the building was listed as 290. They're currently officially at 288, unofficially above that. If you go with the 288, that means the school is at 99.3% of capacity, according to the 2003 rates. Since 2003, there has been no change in the size of the building. There's been no change in the program of the school as far as the grade levels or the mix of special education to regular education. In fact, I interviewed leaders at the school who told me in no uncertain terms that they had never been consulted about the increase in capacity and couldn't defend why this capacity was changed from 290 to 446. All they could do was speculate. We went through and we calculated how would they likely come to the 290, and they're at 288 now. We used ADA guidelines, and that's Michigan state law. That's exactly what we came to, was 290. We tried to speculate about where they got the 446 from, and it seems to be a very crass calculation of the number of classrooms times a regular education population for each classroom according to the district's guidelines. But where that leaves us is that the school, at least according to guidelines, using a combination of Michigan state law for students with disabilities. As you probably know, POHI students are limited 10 to 15 per teacher to only 10 in the classroom at once. So a combination of that and looking at the state's limits for or the district's limits for regular education classrooms, which in the past year was 33. If you ignore the POHI limits, you can get to the 446 number. Otherwise, the school is very close to full capacity right now. The third matter is the $900,000 worth of alleged maintenance needs. The staff at the school dispute that. Now, because I was so alarmed by both of those latter two claims, the enrollment one, that it's declined 50%, was very easy to disprove. But the other two, for the capacity the argument that the school was only at 50% of capacity, and the argument about the $900,000 in maintenance needs. I filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the district. Actually, first in late May, I contacted the spokesperson for the district, Steve Wasco. Never heard back from him for over a month. When I just asked in a friendly way, is this still currently the rationale? And can you kind of explain where the 900,000 came from and why capacity is listed as 446 currently? Over a month, no response. So I filed a Freedom of Information Act claim. After 3 weeks, and I'll share these documents with you because I have them, I got back a 2-page FOIA after the legal amount of time that a FOIA is allowed to be fulfilled. A 2-page FOIA, 1 line on each page. The page in response to my question about capacity, I had asked, why was the capacity change from 290 to 446, an increase over 50%? The answer was a 1-line indication of the current enrollment of the school by grade. Had nothing to do with the question of capacity. The second page also had 1 single line, and it was in response to my request about please delineate the $900,000 worth of maintenance needs. It was a single line that outlined the year-by-year operating costs for the school. Had nothing to do with an itemization of maintenance concerns for the school. So what I want to do in finishing is to say that the reasons that were given to the parents have not been substantiated by the district at all. The very fact that the district would respond to my FOIA request, which is a legally binding request, with 2 pages that had nothing to do with the question asked, that had 1 line in each, says that there is a problem of accountability, a legal problem and also a democratic problem of accountability. And I think that's why the parents are here today, to speak with all of you. Because I know that your response may be this is an issue of local control, and this is my last paragraph. I know that your response may be this is an issue of local control, that it's up to the district and they should be the ones to handle it. But we don't have local control in Detroit. There is no Detroit board with authority that can listen to parents' testimony and if it so chooses, do something about it. There is no elected Detroit board that can be held accountable through votes where we say, okay, great, don't listen to us, but we're going to try to get you out of office next time and put together people who are more responsive to be on the board. There's none of that. The emergency manager does not hold public sessions in which this type of testimony may be presented and is not accountable, certainly, to democratic elections by the constituency that he affects. That's why we are coming to you as the state board, because it is not a situation of local control. And there's somewhere where these parents need to change in light of a decision that was unwarranted and is very hurtful to one of the most commendable schools in Detroit. And I say that as a professor of curriculum studies who is himself a teacher educator. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.